Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Design N Quilt Monthly. My name is Mark Garretts and I'm a National R&K educator. And this month we're going to be going over the Easy Block Creator, which is one of two ways that we create quilt blocks in Design N Quilt. So when you open up Design N Quilt, you're going to be presented with this screen after you dismiss the splash screen. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the Easy Block Creator, which is one of the two ways that we create quilt blocks from scratch in Design N Quilt. And this window that you're looking at right now, as actually we discussed last month, is what we call the artwork side of the program. And in this month's episode, we're going to be looking at the quilt design side. And you can tell which side you're on by the color of the tab here. So this says Design 1 and it's white. In order to get into the Easy Block Creator, it is this icon right here. And when you hover over it, you say it says Create Easy Block. And I'm going to go ahead and click it. And it's going to open up a new design. And you can see that the color of the tab changes to this teal kind of color here. And you get the default grid. And the way we create blocks with the Easy Block Creator is with a grid of smaller blocks. So the default, and you can see the properties over here in the Properties tab, is that we're going to have a rectangle subblock here. This is your rectangle. It happens to be a square because its width is 1 inch and its height is 1 inch, and it's 8 across and 8 down. And that makes the total size 8 by 8 inches. And if you adjust this, it's going to adjust the other parameters, or if you adjust these parameters, it'll adjust these parameters. And this little checkbox right here, keep aspect ratio, means that if I change the width or the height to say 0.75 or half an inch, it will automatically change the other one because it's going to keep the aspect ratio the same. All right. So the idea here is that you're going to create your quilt block pieces using these little sub pieces here, or sub blocks, whatever you want to call them. And what shape you use for these pieces depends on the lines in your quilt and where they fall. So if all you had was squares or rectangles in your quilt, then in your quilt block, you would then probably want to use a square or rectangle shaped block. If you had diagonal lines or triangles, then you have the option of switching to triangle type objects. So let's click this rectangle here, and you can see we have quarter square triangles, which if I click it and click apply, you can see that we get quarter squares. And what that means is that each square is divided up into a quarter. So there's 4 triangles per square. All right, now if we do half square triangles facing up, we're going to get, instead of 4, we're going to get 2. And if I click apply, you can see that the triangles are facing up. Now it's kind of confusing because these triangles up here are facing up, these triangles down here are facing down. So whichever one you do, there's going to be some facing up and some facing down. The question is, what's the first one in the square going to look like? If we change it to half square triangles facing down and click apply, then you can see the first one, which is the first one to the left, is going to face down. Okay, so let me switch back and you'll see here that the first one, click apply, the first one to the left faces up. Okay, so which one you use is kind of dependent on what your quilt block looks like. And if you've got all the diagonal lines going in one direction in your quilt block, then you'll want to use these half square triangles. If they're going 2 directions, so you've got, say a triangle that's going like this or a V-shaped, you would want to use the quarter square triangles and click apply. All right. Now, the number of the triangles that you use or squares that you use is kind of dependent on the size of what the blocks look like here. So if you're creating something from scratch, You can use a smaller number. If you are trying to replicate a quilt block of what a regular quilt block that you already have a design for looks like, then what you would want to do is you would want to choose the largest rectangle or square that fits. Okay, and the reason for that is the way we create these blocks is we're going to be selecting these and then filling them with color or uniting them to create a piece. All right, so let's go back to rectangles and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so if we wanted to create well, let me click apply. If we wanted to create a block that is, say, a log cabin block, we are going to start with two rectangles side by side, two squares side by side. So the way I do that is I click one, and then I hold down the control key on my keyboard and click the second one, and that clicks both of them. Now they're just both selected. They are not yet a single piece. We want to make them a single piece, so we have two ways we can do that. Up here, this icon is now lit up and it's called Unite, and we could click that. We could also right click on the mouse and click Unite. So let's go ahead and do that. And so you can see now, instead of having a solid line here, I've got a dotted line. And now this is one piece, okay? If I want to create another piece just like it, I would do the same thing. I would click here, I would do control click here, I can right click and click Unite, or I can click this icon and click Unite. So now I've got two blocks, okay, two pieces in the block, here and here, and then these are still all separate out here. To keep track of them as you're creating them, it's probably a good idea to color them as you go. So let's, with this selected, click on a color down here to assign that color to that piece. Okay, let's assign a contrasting color. Let's use this green to that piece. Okay, so now I can tell what pieces are assigned. And you can see if I were to say assign a color, let's assign that red again to here, you can see it just assigns it to that. I'm going to click undo. All right. So the next thing we want to do is create a piece that goes like this. So these three blocks. Okay. So I'm going to select this one and hold down control, and then I'm going to click unite, and I'll select a fourth color. Let's do this dark purple here. Okay. And on and on. And so that's how I would start creating my quilt block. And if you can visualize your quilt block in your head of how you want it to look like and how it divides up, then this is a pretty fast and easy way to create a quilt block, which is why we call it the Easy Block Creator. Now, there's another way to select blocks when you're in this mode, and that is with the lasso tool. So this is the lasso piece select. And if you're selecting a lot of blocks, like let's say I want to select all these blocks here in the corner, instead of having to control click them all, I could click this lasso piece select, and then I could just freehand draw a circle around them. Okay, if you're good with the mouse, you can do that. Okay, I'm going to do that, and you can see I went off the top there, but it's okay. And then when I let off the mouse and I right click, it will select everything that's inside. The trick here, and let me undo that, is to not go through a block, because if it's not totally enclosed in the lasso, it's not going to select it. Okay, so for example, if I were to drag along here and I accidentally didn't get that corner one in there, and then let's say I could see a straight line to here, so I don't have to try and connect them. As long as I can see a straight line to my start point of where I want to go, I can just right click, it'll automatically connect them, and you can see that it left this one out. Now, you don't have to do the lasso again. You can hold down control and click here to add that one. Oh, I'm still in lasso select mode. I got to get out of that mode. Let me right click. Okay, and I'll just do that example again. Okay, and right click. Okay, oops, now see, I missed those two. So I could go back to my normal piece select mode, which is what the default is. So I didn't mention that when we started, but this icon here was lit up. So if I go back to this and I come here and I click Control and Control, I can add those, and then I can click Unite. And now that's all one block up here. All right. So the reason that we don't want to use little tiny pieces, we want to use the biggest piece we can, is because it makes it easier to select just the blocks that we want, and we're not having to count and do all kinds of crazy things if we had lots and lots of blocks. So for example, if I were to change this to 32 across and 32 down and click apply, I could still, it's going to reset the blocks colors. And I'm going to double click my mouse here to get everything back on the screen. I still have 1-inch block. My total size is still now 32 by 32. If I change my size back to 8 by 8, you can see that it automatically changed my sub block size to 1/4 inch. Click apply. I'll double click my magnifying glass here to zoom back in, and so you can see it, but you can see how complicated this would be to try and select the right pieces. So that's why you want to have the biggest possible piece that you can to create your quilt block with. All right, so that's the basics of the Easy Block Creator. Again, if you have a new design, so let's go ahead and click my new design here. I'll click Create Easy Block. Actually, I didn't need to click New Design. I could have just clicked Create Easy Block. And it goes back to this default here again. And then once again, you can change it here. So one of the things that we do when we design these blocks is that if you have it in your head exactly what you want that block to look like, or you know what the size and proportion of the pieces are, you can go ahead and use the Easy Block Creator directly like I have shown you. And if you don't, then we have a tool to bring in what we call a backdrop. And that would be an image of a quilt block that you could underlay behind this so that you could match your blocks up. Let me show you how to do that real quick. So we use this tool right here called the backdrop tool. And I have some quilt blocks here that I've already created. And so here's a log cabin, for example. Let me go ahead and open that one. Okay, now that happens to be 8 by 8, but you can see that things are not lining up. All right, now why is that? That's because the block size here is an even, excuse me, we have kind of an odd number of blocks rather than an even number of blocks. All right, so this has 8 across, and if we were to count squares, we would find that this has 7. All right, so if I change and I'm going to get out of backdrop mode by going back to my piece select, and if I were to change this to 7 by 7, keep them 1 inch, and keep my quilt block at 7 and click apply, you would see it still doesn't line up, and that's because this is an 8-inch block. So what I want to do now is change this to 8, and it's going to automatically change here to 8 and click apply, and now voila, everything lines up. All right, now these colors that you see here, those are not in the quilt block yet. Those are what we call our backdrop. So it's a little confusing because they're nice and bright. So what we can do is we can come over here to our backdrop tool. If we click it again, we've already loaded a backdrop. It reselects the backdrop, and I can come over here and I can adjust it. And one of the things I can do is I can make it a little bit lighter. So I can move this slider and click apply, and now you can see it's kind of pastel, so it gives me a little bit easier way to select the blocks that I want to fill in for this. All right, so just to show you again the example, if I come back here to piece select and I were to select this block and I would want to put say a red in there, I could do that. And if I want to continue doing all the red blocks, I could click here, control click, and apply the red again. And these look like a purple block. So once again, I could control click all of these, or I'll use the lasso select tool to draw a circle around all of them like that. I can see that I could go straight to my point here without going through anything wrong. I can right click, selects all of those, and now I'm going to unify them, which I forgot to do here. Okay, and I'm going to click this one. So if I were to select, go back to my piece select and select, you'd see that is still an individual block. So what I want to do is control click all those or lasso them, and I would unify them, and I realize I made that the wrong color. I want to make that a purple, so let's make it that color. So this is how you would use it. Now if you don't want to freehand draw a circle, here's one other tip about using the lasso select tool. You can just click straight lines. Okay, so I can click here, and I just clicked once. I'm not dragging and clicking. I'm going to click again, click again, click again, and now I've got a straight line back to my start point. I can right click, and you can see I've selected all of those, unify, select my purple, etc. So that concludes our lesson for this month. I want to thank you for watching and invite you to come back next month for another edition of Design N Quilt Monthly.